Здрасти, как си?
Здравей, добре. Вие как сте? How are you?
Горе-долу. So we'll probably switch to English anyway. I feel weird.
I wouldn't be able to continue this way, because even while I was watching lots of Bulgarian cartoons when I was in Romania in my childhood, I remember nothing.
It's a bit mutual. I've watched Discovery Channel in Russian my childhood, but I sort of understand it, but I can't form one sentence to save my life.
Yeah.
Are they still airing Russian movies with subtitles without like translating them as they used to?
I have no idea. Honestly, I don't own a television for about 10 years now, so I have no idea what's going on just on the internet.
Yeah, it reminds me, because the strangest experience watching Bulgarian TV was watching Macedonian movies, because they didn't even give subtitles back then in the 90s. And I could sort of understand what's going on, but Bulgarians like to pretend that Macedonian language is basically a form of Bulgarian and vice versa. Yeah. Also in Serbia, Serbians call their language Serbo-Macedonian, like it's also the same language, whereas it's a continuum, and the further north you go, the less you understand. I remember in Belgrade, when I was asking directions on the street, it was often that they couldn't understand neither Russian nor English, but when I asked in Bulgarian, they scratched their head and asked me why I was talking like great-grandmother used to. Sort of southern dialect, yeah.
It's very confusing, Kaiv. It's basically the same experience with Macedonian. It's a bit like Old Bulgarian, and in some ways, like what's spoken in a village around here. But in Serbian, it's very difficult. It's really I couldn't.
But even in Bulgaria there is certain variety, because when I go to Shopee, they have basically a very different version of Bulgarian. I can sort of understand when they speak slowly, but when they start telling jokes, they lose me completely.
Yeah, it's there are some areas, for example, in the south, a lot of Turkish influence. And half of the dictionary is actually Turkish. In some areas, you can't really understand it.
And they think of themselves as Bulgarians. I know there are Muslim Bulgarians with their own culture, and even
they're a strange case. They some of them don't consider themselves neither Bulgarians nor Turkish. They're just Pomaks. For themselves.
Yeah. Okay. There's like 10,000 of them, and they consider themselves as separate people.
So we kind of rush into this talk and podcast without any introductions. I think I will return to this part of our traditions. So I'm Stopan. Here is Pavel. We're co-hosts of iBookBinding's podcast, and here is our guest from Bulgaria, Stopan. But I understand that's your sort of cynic name, not your real name.
It's a pseudonym. Some people actually in the past have confused us both, because your real name is actually very, very close to this. But my real name is Kalin Daskalov.
Yeah. Okay. It's great to have you here, Kalin, and it's a sort of Balkanic intervention here today, because Pavel has some Bulgarian roots, I have some Romanian roots, and Kalin is from Bulgaria. So
yeah, I feel very at home.
With the names, it was a bit strange, because when I first saw your account, I was also like, Wow, this name is pretty much like mine. Is it some Bulgarian version of the name? But then I think it's absolutely different in Bulgarian. So
Yeah, it actually comes from. We have a word like stopanstvo, which is like household. So basically, Stopan or Stopanin is like the housekeeper,
yeah.
or like the elder of the house. So it's a bit of an old form, and it has a bit of folkloric roots, as it's this particular name is a bit like honoring a past ancestor that somehow did something exceptional in their life. So in many villages, the tradition is quite different, but it's basically kind of cult of a primitive cult to the ancestor of some sort.
So did the name come first, or did the bookbinding come first? How was it?
The bookbinding came first. I remember when I started out, it was just a type of a hobby thing, mainly for me, a bit of presents to make for my friends and relatives. And when I started to actually try to sell them and actually popularize them on the internet, I made a page that was called Balkan Bookbindery.
Yeah.
And it was in cooperation with another friend. But eventually we split, and I wanted to drive things in a bit more different direction conceptually, and I decided to really make a bit of a more drastic change. So I incorporated this pseudonym a bit to maybe drive things in a bit more creative direction, and somehow distance it from myself, from my real name. And it's actually been a very good idea, although strange at first.
But what was your audience? I mean, judging by the wordplay that you use in your nickname, you were aiming to address Bulgarian audiences. Was there a market for your work in Bulgaria, or were you mainly selling your books over internet to other countries?
Well, actually, the marketplace in Bulgaria was at the time completely non-existent. It's very weak right now as well. I've been doing lots of things to try to pique a bit of interest in handmade books and in books as a craft item, a collector's item, and so on, but it's been a very slow process. And it's a bit paradoxical that even when at one point when I wanted to get my master's, how should I say, document that I'm a master craftsman in this, to actually legally practice my work, there was the paradox that there was nobody to examine me. There was no bookbinders in the capital working as independent craftsmen. So it was a very slow process to actually arrange this committee. And right now in the capital, I'm the only craftsman bookbinder with a document. So if anybody else wants to become a bookbinder, I'm actually the only one qualified to make his examination, which is a bit of a strange situation because I'm really not that proficient. Not really a name that has been around for years. I'm fairly young, so it sounds a bit unfair to me to have this
responsibility.
Yeah, but it's just the situation around here.
Actually, I was really surprised when Stepan told me that he had found a Bulgarian bookbinder. I've never heard of a Bulgarian bookbinder or a Bulgarian book artist, because what you do is actually art, at least to me. And the situation is not new. My grandfather spent most of his life in Bulgaria, and it was a long life. He was born in 1920, and he told me that the last time he could find a good bookbinder in Bulgaria was in 1930s. So most of our library, our family's library, was rebound abroad, like in France or in Germany. And I'm really glad to hear that things are changing slowly. Are you thinking perhaps of taking pupils or?
Well, yes and no. Basically, it's I'm still not sure in what exactly am I supposed to be teaching people, because I'm really, how should I say, it's not like I'm a commission-based bindery where I work specifically on fine bindings or library bindings or something like this that can be methodically identical and therefore somehow taught to students. I'm currently trying to make very exotic work, and I'm not sure how exactly should I teach this type of bookmaking, except maybe in some kind of small technique-based workshops, for example, only leather pairing or leather tooling or sewing methods and something like that. And the most recent thing I'm going to try is there is a village here in the north part of Bulgaria that has been very active in trying to make it tourist destination for book-based events. So basically, they've been getting a lot of funding. There's a non-governmental organization that has been driving all this stuff. And in short, they have libraries, they have book events, readings, and really want to incorporate bookbinding in this project. And so they've been inviting me to somehow develop a course for their project. So this will probably be the first teaching experience, a bit more large scale that I'll be making. So it's probably going to be later this year or early in the next one.
That sounds really interesting. What do you mean a village? How come a village can afford a project like that? Is it something like a traditional craft village like Ether in Gabrovo?
No, it's as I understand it, it's inspired by there is this international cooperative which includes cities and villages that are famous in some way for their kind of I'm sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble to find the right words, but let's just say that these particular cities or villages are famous for their development of some kind of book culture, be it in preservation, be it as a past writing center or something like that. So this village actually is, from last year, is part of this international organization of such book cities and villages, and wants to develop its specific regional culture in this direction, I guess. I'm not sure if they had this sort of culture in the past. I'm not sure if there were any writing, for example, medieval writing centers there or binding centers there, but I guess they want to make it contemporary contribution in some way.
You spoke about teaching and what you should teach your students. It's somewhat resonated to me with what we were discussing with our previous guest, Mark Cockram, and he told that his main goal is to sort of place a student on a path not to teach them everything, like every little small thing of the craft, but just to show the basics and let the student decide where he or she wants to go and how they want to, apply the craft. And then they will understand what they need. And maybe they will ask you as a teacher or find another teacher or just continue to experiment on their own. And I think that's the most important thing in reviving the craft.
Yeah, that sounds very wise, actually. Maybe I've been just waiting for somebody with enough, how should I say, passion,
yeah,
to come to ask me these sort of questions. I've never refused anyone help, but I did have some people that came to learn from me and just gave up pretty early. So that was a bit demoralizing, and it has happened a lot more than somebody with genuine interest coming in and taking this knowledge and applying it in their own work.
Well, it does take a very special kind of person to become a bookbinder. I know quite a few, and all of you are very calm, very methodical, a bit of a nerd, most of you. So that also helps. And you don't know if it's your thing until you try it. By the way, in gender terms, was it mostly men, mostly women, 50-50?
Mostly women, but not by a long stretch. Maybe 2/3 women, 1/3 men.
And age-wise?
Below 30.
So young people.
25, 30, this bracket roughly.
I wanted to ask how the bookbinder's profession is called in Bulgarian?
Knigovezets.
Knigovezets?
Huh? Yes, and this is the person, while the process itself is Knigovezane.
Oh, so is it about tying books?
Yeah, it's like basically a direct translation of bookbinding.
Okay, so like вязание книг.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds funny word. And how old were you when you started?
It's easier for me to say when. It's about 2013, which was about, I think I was 21 or 22 when I started. Right now I'm going to be 29 next month.
Okay. So it's 7 years ago. It's quite a long path for a bookbinder.
Really? It seems rather short for me. But,
time flies fast, that's true. But in 7 years, you really can master some things. So.
But then one of our guests, after 25 years of experience, told us that he's just about starting to get what he's doing.
Yeah, I completely understand. I feel that way all the time, really. Especially now, I have some ideas that I never had before, and I feel like I really didn't have the maturity to conceive them even, for example, 2 years ago. So it's really just another field ahead. It's like a different, like you came up a hill and you see a different landscape that you never saw before. And I have the slight feeling that maybe in 2-3 years time it's going to be the same, and this cycle is going to just repeat itself.
Yeah, that's true. Every new project brings some new experiences, and then it brings some synergy between different approaches and different ideas, and suddenly you see that, oh, I could do this and these things differently, or I can now do something else, or I can experiment a bit more, and then it's something interesting appears in your art and craft.
Yeah. Maybe you could give an example. What excites you at the moment? Some technique, some project. What's your passion now?
My passion now is really because for a long time I've been making mostly journals, blank books, and I've been giving them a lot of how should I say, a bit of my artistic vision on the binding itself, and have been really suffering that I can't really see the inside. So after my after the Society of Bookbinders competition that was last year, I made my first complete book with my own paper, and inside it was my own calligraphy, and the binding was mine, and of course with the help of my father. And it was really eye-opening because for the first time I actually had a complete project from absolutely end to finish. And it was really well appreciated from just regular people and bookbinders who I really respect. So I felt a bit of I felt strong excitement. So I've been thinking how I can feel this again, really. So apart from journals, I really want to transition at some point really towards the artistic side of bookmaking, and which includes creating the content and the insight of the book and making it a complete conceptual object. This is really my passion at the moment, and I have a bit of an example which I can show you right here, which is a little book that has these really non-orthodox headbands which protrude, and the whole concept of the book is about fertility and harvest. And inside are my own drawings and calligraphy on my own handmade paper. Which this is still unfinished. As you can see, it's only lined with the covers, but it's really something that it's not inspired by anything I've seen in terms of bindings. It's just really a raw type of creative expression that it a bit sacrifices a bit of its functional properties for artistic ones, but I'm not really destroying any other book in the process. It's really just innocent in its own form, and it's really relaxing. So yeah, this is my direction for.
So you're thinking about shifting from design binding to artist books?
Yeah. A lot of my time on designing and concept creation is based around artist books for now.
You mentioned your father, and I understand that you were exposed to arts and crafts from early childhood as he's a silversmith. Am I right?
Yeah.
And is it that do you have some tradition of craftsmanship running through your family, or your father was the first to take this path?
He was the first. He actually comes from a family of doctors, and it was a bit incidental because he got into silversmithing out of just sheer luck. He was right here in the capital when he was young, around 20 years ago, just as the transition from communism to primitive democracy came around here. So jobs were a bit scarce, and a friend found him in a bar and told him, "Can you help me out in this silversmithing workshop?" And he said, "Okay, whatever pays, really." So he went there, and they were making just regular copies of things, really because after communism, a lot of people were hungry for crosses and Virgin Marys, and they were making a lot of these. So he really didn't develop, how should I say, a creative side in this job, but technique-wise, he learned a lot. And for 20 years later, he did nothing of the sort. He worked a completely different job.
Yeah.
And when I started to develop this bookbinding and ask him to somehow relearn what he knew and supply himself with some tools, he was just in a month he remembered everything he done 20 years ago and just emerged this absolute creativity from him that I've never seen before. It's been really interesting because it allowed me to know my father in a way which I really didn't know before, and we're a great team because we really don't have to speak much to each other. I only have to say to him 2 words and he knows exactly what to do, and I always like what he thinks of.
That's beautiful, and he does some amazing work, and what that people can see on your bindings, and on his he has a separate social network account, so social Instagram account or something, as far as I remember. And yeah, that's an impressive work.
And it's a very traditional thing to work as a father-son team. I have a friend who's a woodcarver, and he works with his father, and he's been working with him all his life. And I saw them working. They barely speak to each other in the process. They only need to look at each other, and they know what to do. It's a very rare thing nowadays. I envy you, actually.
Well, it was a strange process to begin, but right now, really, it's very fulfilling. Although a bit stressful as any creative work because you don't have a salary. But yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah, that's true.
I wanted to ask you a bit more on the traditional side of your work. I understand you want to continue some Bulgarian, maybe not Bulgarian, Balkanian traditions of bookbinding. At least you talked about that in your interview for iBookBinding Instagram.
Interview with Anna Markova. It was initially published on a different Instagram, and we just agreed with Anna that we will share it. So yeah, props to Anna for making this interview.
A tip to Anna, yeah. So what are Bulgarian traditions? Because from what I understand, they were interrupted for centuries and centuries. So you're basically reconstructing something that hadn't been a living tradition for a while. What are Bulgarian traditions in bookbinding and bookcraft for you?
Well, there's not really much. As I've mentioned in this particular interview, in my opinion, the last time we actually had some kind of contribution to this craft was in medieval times, still when this was bookmaking was for manuscripts exclusively, before the rise of printing presses. And this contribution still wasn't much. It was basically more or less in terms of decoration, structural. In terms of structure, it was more or less Byzantine tradition in all aspects. I mean, they're basically identical as I've seen them. So it's not really much, and I've tried in the past to kind of build upon it, but really I realized at some point that it's just not really possible. So I've been trying to consider it as a sort of puzzle, how it could could have developed until now. So I've been really studying methods from different cultures. I'm really influenced by English bookbinding from the 19th and 20th century. I can't really shed that from my work right now. And in decorative terms, I've been trying to combine these pieces of what decorative traditions were around this time prevalent in pottery, in stone masonry, in wood carving, and embroidery, and really trying to connect a sort of stylistic atmosphere that I can translate somehow into the book to make it look like from it's around here, although not really in direct connection to how books were made 300, 400 years ago. So this is my particular experiment in creating some sort of a style or tradition that has roots in Bulgaria in particular, although I'm not sure how successful I am in this.
I guess we'll see in 20 years or something.
Yeah.
I can think of at least two Bulgarian contributions to world culture from early medieval times, which is ceramic icons and Glagolitic script, which is what I wanted to ask you about. Do you, as a calligrapher, only write in Cyrillics, or have you tried Glagolitic script too?
I use it from time to time as a decoration, mainly as a numerical type of value, because before Arabic numbers came into mainstream use, we actually, in most cultures, they use the letters as the number. For example, A was 1, B was 2, and so on. So Old Bulgarian as a language is very complex, and with much changes in different epochs. So I'm having, it sounds to me strange to, for example, write a contemporary Bulgarian word in Glagolitic. So I prefer to write in Cyrillic in contemporary Bulgarian, although I would really like to know Old Bulgarian and write in Glagolitic. I really don't have for now the opportunity to learn it extensively and use it properly. I don't want to massacre it in some just an educated way, just to look cool or old and traditional. I really don't want to disrespect it.
I know there is a contemporary tradition of Glagolitic writing in Croatia, where they're trying to revive it. They're very proud of having most of what survives from Glagolitic inscriptions on stone.
Yeah.
They used it as late as 15th, 16th century. So then they lost it for like a century or so, and now there is a revival program. There are calligraphers writing in Glagolitic. There are books and even a newspaper printed in Glagolitic.
Wow.
So so there is a bit of revival there.
But the language itself is contemporary Croatian.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really brave. My admirations. Really.
My too, because to me Glagolitic looks like, say, Armenian or Georgian script, or something else would have used in Middle Ages.
It's beautiful, really.
It's a very beautiful script, yeah. So, and also you mentioned that Old Bulgarian sounds strange to you. To a Russian speaker, Old Bulgarian actually is easier to understand than modern Bulgarian because of tradition of Church Slavonic, which has influenced modern Russian greatly. Many of our contemporary words come from Church Slavonic, which is basically Old Bulgarian.
Yeah, and I think the structure has, I'm not sure how it's in English, but Padesh. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and right now, contemporary Bulgarian doesn't have any of these. We use suffixes and postfixes.
Well, technically, there is like vocative when you call someone. Kolo, which is one of those. Yeah, you don't say kola, you say kolo. Yeah, учителю.
Technically, in Russian, there is also some remnants of vocative, but they're almost non-existent.
But it's not taught in schools. Yeah, in schools we're only taught like six of those.
Yeah, I think in Romanian there is more vocative than in Russian right now, much more.
But Romanian is grammatically rather similar to Bulgarian. There is this phrase Balkan Sprachbund, which is Balkanian Language Union.
Yeah.
When many languages that are not directly related to each other are grammatically very similar. Like there is a full analog of a and the in Bulgarian. Used as a suffix, and it's also used as a suffix in Romanian, which is unique for descendants of Latin. You don't say la something, but something la.
Instead of articles, you use suffixes. In Romanian. That's true. Another funny thing with Romanian language is that when I come over to Bucharest, and sometimes when I met, if you know Mihai Vertejaru, a bookbinder from Bucharest,
I follow him.
Sometimes he makes me to read all the Romanian church books, and they are written in Cyrillics, so I can easily read them. Not always I can understand what's written in them, because my understanding of Romanian is far from good. But he can understand them, but he can't read them. I can read them, but I can't understand them.
It's a two-key lock.
Yeah. We need each other for this job.
Yeah.
Did you have any experience in arts before you started bookbinding? Because you definitely have some style in your work, and it seems that you need to have some background before you can do something like that. Or this started with your bookbinding experiments as well.
This started with the bookbinding for sure, because I studied to be a librarian.
Okay.
In university and in school, I studied to program in C++. So,
okay, that's one more thing we shared, all of us, because it seems all of us are programmers in some way.
Yeah, but it's actually helped me because just the IT culture and knowledge. I couldn't have built my website and just do the whole thing with video editing and photo editing. It has its place in my work, but purely on the creative side, it came out of just necessity and maybe naturally due to the nature of the job. But even now, I consider myself more of a decorator than an artist, because if I have to, for example, draw a dog, I can't. I really don't have this connection from my head to my hand. I can imagine how should I draw the dog, but when it comes to the hand to execute it, it turns out something completely different. But if I imagine the book as a space which I can chart in smaller areas and think in terms of symmetry or asymmetry And in terms of aligning elements in a particular order, that I consider myself somewhat good at. But just I'm not really good at spontaneous creativity.
So you have a more of a mathematical approach to designs and drawing.
Probably, even though I'm very bad at mathematics.
Do you use computers in your designing process?
Not really. I don't know how. I've only recently from this year bought myself a drawing pad and do a bit of calligraphy and some vector graphics as an experiment on the computer. But mainly, to be honest, I have a sort of a strange approach. I often write what I want to do, and this is better than me actually sketching the design, because my sketches are usually ugly. But if I develop it into words, for example, this looks like this and comes after this, and if I write 1 or 2 pages in this way, I actually kind of fix it in my head, and when it comes to actually executing it, it tends to come rather easily.
That's an interesting method of visualization.
Yeah.
So basically, in your case, words are worth a thousand pictures, and not vice versa.
Yeah. I understand this is completely repairable. If I had more discipline to practice drawing, I could learn and to make things better. But for some reason, I just don't find it joyful. I feel it like homework. I don't like to draw.
Well, it works for you, so why not?
Yeah.
But you like calligraphy, so there's separate things for you, because many calligraphers consider themselves as artists, and for them drawing and writing are very similar activities.
Probably, but they probably understand drawing in a sense in which I do not. I mean, it's hard. I guess if you're a better drawer or artist, you're automatically probably a better calligrapher. But
not always.
I
not necessarily. So yeah, I know artists whose handwriting is as bad as an average doctor's, or even worse. So.
Yeah, but mine too.
They can draw a tree, but they can't write a letter A, so that I can understand that it's not a K. I mean, come on.
Yeah. My usual handwriting is awful as well. My wife actually often tells me you should just write in your calligraphy everywhere you go. You just abandon your normal handwriting.
How did that come about, by the way? How did you start into calligraphy? Was it intentional, or was it a hobby that transformed into part of your craft?
Well, it's really just like everything else I have incorporated in the books, including the linoprint designs and the handmade paper. I probably have this benefit that I don't have a background in anything, so I really don't know when I'm doing things wrong. So I can just start and try it out, really. I want to make paper, and I start making paper. I want to try lino cutting, and I try it, and whatever happens, I somehow incorporate it. So calligraphy was pretty much the same. I just wanted to write a particular story or something like that, and just opened my facsimile books with old Bulgarian manuscripts, and when I started using the pen, I saw a lot of similarities and I understood it's not about really the style, it's about the tool you're using to write it and the medium. For example, I found that the tool itself, the pen, and the paper really dictate how the writing will come about. Not exactly, it's not exactly a designing process, especially if you want to write fast. So I really think this helped me understand that most of these manuscripts that I saw and thought of them as this kind of an artistic project were actually just a natural move of the hand, really, which was forced by the paper or parchment and the tool used in this particular case. So it's really not that big of a burden. If you want to write something in handmade paper with a pen, you can just grab it and the script will look different, whatever you've thought in your head.
Have you ever tried writing with a quill, like with an actual feather? I hear experience is very different and letters come out differently too.
I've tried, but I really can't. Maybe my feather was not that good because it was very brittle. It didn't hold the tip. The tip was often breaking.
I understand you need to get a swan feather of all things.
Well, it may be hard to find, but I'll try sometime.
Maybe in a zoo, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you can even pluck one.
Yeah, the feather I tried was actually from a peacock. So
whoa.
Yeah, but I found it just like you said in a zoo. But I wouldn't recommend it. It's a bit brittle.
Do you use pens made by your father for calligraphy, and maybe in just usual life?
Yeah, right now I have my pen over here that he made, and I've been using it for almost everything I've done recently, because you can remove the tip and I can put on whatever I want. So before that I used some other pens, but this one really, what can I say, these custom works really help out with getting in the zone and making something nice.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could show us some of your recent work with calligraphy.
Or maybe some bindings. Do you have something on hand on?
I have a few things to show you. It's for better or for worse, most of my recent projects have been sold, but I do have some interesting things to show you that are not that familiar. Basically, one of the projects you used in your post on Instagram, the Pillars collection with these long journals, that they were made in 2018, and I've been keeping them since. They really haven't found a new home. And although they're beautiful, I'm a bit tired of just showing them. I actually feel them right now a bit old, so I'll show you what I've been working on, which is going to be the next project after that fertility harvest book that I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot more ambitious. So basically, after I made a lot of paper this season, I've made, my father actually designed these frames.
Yeah.
And they've been printed on a lot of pages. And this is going to be folded. And this is actually how the signature is going to be constructed. So I've been practicing some scripts. It's going to be a whole book written in such a way.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure exactly what type of script to use. For example, this is a bit thin, and this is a thicker variant with a bit more decoration
Oh, that's
on the script.
I could read the first one. This
Yeah.
is more of a incantation to me.
Yeah, I really like this type of
It definitely looks more fairy tale like.
Yeah, and I've tried also in red, and this is basically just a sneak peek on the design process. It's sorry, my
What will the text
screensaver.
be?
I want to. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there is this mystical historical figure in Bulgarian history. We had a king that we really attribute our only golden age in the Bulgarian medieval history to him. He was Tsar Simeon.
Wasn't he the one who had a brother who could turn into a wolf and a raven?
Yeah, exactly this historical figure, but this is his son, not his brother. He had two sons. One was Peter, and one was this one, Veniamin. Basically, Peter was crowned king after him, and he was a devout Christian. And Veniamin decided to return to paganism and accepting the old Bulgarian name Boyan. So he's known as Boyan the magician. Boyan Magesnik. And there is really only one short historical chronic written about him, basically that he accepted the pagan name, he wore pagan clothes, and he is known to practice magic and turn into a wolf. And this is the only evidence of his character. And it exploded in Bulgarian literature with many authors actually evolving his mythos in some way. And with this project, I want to make a contribution to the story and actually write my own interpretation of what this character was like, and really want to make a parallel a bit with Western alchemy, as for example, how alchemists wanted to turn matter into gold and therefore from the outer transform the inner. And I want to relate it in crafts in some way. So I want to imagine Boyan as a craftsman who at one point had such a power over matter that he had power over the matter of his body as well and could turn into a wolf and something like that. So
that's very poetic. And also fitting, and also fitting to the scripts you're using, especially to the more magic-looking one.
I want it to be like a life story, and it's going to be a double book. I can show you a bit of sketches I have here. Some of my more not so ugly sketches. I'm not sure if I can explain it properly, but as you saw, this signature is going to be rather narrow. So these are going to be two books, one facing the other, and they will have two covers separate on the top, but one cover that is going to be common for the both of them on the bottom. And both of them will have an additional covers that, as you can see in the other picture, this is how it will look closed. So it will have four covers, one going up, one going down, and two going sideways. And there's going to be a lot of gold and silver on top. And we're still designing.
So opening the book will be a process. in itself. Like you
Yeah,
don't
whole
get it all at
experience.
once. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's going. I wanted to be a kind of like, I'm not sure how it's in English, but in Orthodox Christianity, you have this basically a wood carved thing you put on the wall with icons which open, and you put a candle in the middle. It's basically like a home shrine. We call it a iconostas. And I wanted to be like, for example, a pagan, something like a rebellion of Boyan against Christianity, but in his own search for freedom type of way, not really in a destructive sense.
it's. I think it's also fitting because, according to legend, as far as I remember, Buyan and his Christian brother fought together against enemies of the nation. So they fought the same war, but in different ways. One was fighting with the cross, another was fighting with his magic. So
Yeah.
there is this synthesis too. This is great because, you know, Mark Cockram, who we've already mentioned today, he also makes book-inspired iconostasis. He also thinks that the standard diptych is a form of a book. So he treats it like the variant of the same object. This is great. Thank you for showing it to us. This is very inspiring.
No problem. I hope we get to all see it finished someday. It's,
That's true.
And if you have time, I can show you just one smaller object we made recently. This is the first scroll me and my dad actually made. So he made the whole engineering of it while I just made the scroll inside. So it has this type of lock,
yeah,
which opens, and this in front is actually a door. I'm not sure if it could be seen properly, but
yeah. We can definitely see, and maybe even read a bit.
But yeah, as I said in the beginning, these are really the first projects I really want to incorporate everything from calligraphy to handmade paper, and just make complete conceptual projects. It's really fun, and I feel that really people have a more emotional response and connection to them rather than just from a blank book. But we've yet to see. I'm not really able to make a complete transition right now and just to make only these ones. But I hope in time I can.
Do you see if there is a market for objects like these? Because I'm sure that there should be some collectors that would want to have books and scrolls and other artists' books objects like these ones in their collections.
I really think so, and that is one of the reasons why I'm giving this much of my time right now, because actually the person who purchased that particular book I mentioned earlier from Society of Bookbinders competition in 2019 was a very big collector, and he showed me after he purchased it a catalog of his whole collection. It was just staggering. I mean, he has things from Mesopotamian clay tablets to modern contemporary artistic bookbindings from big names like Sangoskin, Sutcliffe, Philip Smith, so on. And it's been a real honor to actually have one of our works in his collection. And he mentioned this particular thing that he really thinks that there are a lot of collectors in Europe who are very eager to fill their collections with examples from authentic work from Eastern Europe and the Balkans and Russia, because there just isn't much of it.
Yeah, that's true.
So every bit counts, I guess.
Yeah, but isn't it a bit sad to give away your child that won this prize last year?
Oh no, I was very happy, and my father was too. When I told him, he was outside and he started yelling in the celebration.
Okay, that's.
I had some doubts in the beginning, but it's just you have to keep things moving forward. That's what we said to ourselves. We can't really delve in this too much.
That's a good attitude. Yeah, it's much easier for me because I don't have any unique objects in my, among the things I make. So it's so much easier.
Yeah, probably. But you know what? It's a strange feeling because sometimes when we discuss it with my dad, it's like we don't. We're not sure why we're doing this, because we want to make something really passionately, and when we make it, we don't want to look at it. We just want to make the next one.
Yeah.
So it's not really about the object. In the end of the day, it's just maybe the process, just the mental space which you go in when you do this type of work.
Well, I guess
Sounds
I can understand that.
Life to me.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that pretty well, because I switched from bookbinding some time ago and from book repairs to making bookbinding tools, and the process of designing new tools and updating old designs and improving them brings me so much more happiness than anything else in the whole things among the whole things I do. And of course, when a customer writes to you and, oh, your small tool changed my process absolutely, it's so much easier now to do this and this, it's of course it's amazing, and it makes me so happy that I can't even explain that. But then the process of designing and iterational process of making changes and seeing that you improve something, and you, as you told us before, there is this synergy that comes after years and years of experience, or with every year of experience. You see that, okay, I take some design I made like 3 years ago and I remake it now, and I see that many things I could have done better, and I can do them better, or I can do them in absolutely different way, that it makes the whole design, absolutely different thing. Once again, much better. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, this creative process is really beautiful and fulfilling. So.
Okay, so this is my workshop.
Yeah.
And basically, this is the messy work table that I have. Hello, Stopan.
Hi. Hi again.
Right here, I keep my nipping press, and below it, the sewing frame.
Yeah.
That looks handmade too.
Well, the press is from somebody named Robert from the UK, but they're a bit hard to find really, but it was a cheap alternative. The sewing frame is from a Dutch master carpenter, and this press is from him as well.
Yeah.
And my knives are here. This is my old press, which I don't really use anymore.
This looks like a press for juices or something like that.
Well, what can I say? And some of my tools, hand nippers, saws, hammers.
Yeah.
And below I keep a bit of my little printing equipment, my papers. It's a bit messy, but works for me, I guess. And right here I have the big lathe press with the plow, collection of hand tools,
Yeah.
some chemicals, glues, paints, inks, and so on. And right here I have my weights that I use in my free time. A few books around here. I can actually show you. This is one of my early attempts to make a binding, and inside is a printed book on Bulgarian manuscripts.
It's always interesting to see first attempts in bookbinding of different bookbinders.
Yeah, most of them are pretty sad.
Well, that's how we'll start, and then it gets better. And I think that's a good example to everyone. That you just need to begin with something, and then it improves. And several years later, you can make rather good books.
Yeah, I hope so. And here are a few journals that I plan to make quite soon.
So that's a stack of work for the nearest weeks, I guess.
Yeah, these are 3 journals that I'm going to be doing now. They're going to be brown, 4 red, and 3 blue ones, each with their own particular print design on the cover. And some past works as well. This is maybe from 2014 or 15.
Yeah. So once again, it already looks quite nice.
You can see some things that I wouldn't do now, such as this ugly space inside.
Well, every time I take some of my old books, I can see some things that I should have done better. That's just how it works.
Do you make your paper in here too?
I have a big plow and press here as well, but I don't use it often because I don't work such large formats.
Okay.
But just in case.
You have a good collection of presses.
Yeah, I counted like 5 or 6.
Well, so this one, which is a laying in time press, this press that I made myself a lot of years ago, but I still use. The old press that I don't really use. The big press below, the nipping press here, the laying press and plow here.
Yeah.
So these are all my presses. And basically this is my small workshop.
Yeah.
This is where I keep my leathers and other materials. I really want to keep them away from the light.
Yeah.
And I have this sort of like utility room, which actually was a back at some point. But I make paper here, and have to clean glue or inks or any such things. I basically use this wet room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just ruin this nice room here.
That's good to have a wet room quite close to your workshop, because I make paper in our bathroom and it's on the other side of the apartment, so it's always quite a messy process to to go all the way over there to do the paper and then bring it back, and you are going always. Yeah.
I have to say, yours is by far the tidiest workplace I've ever seen. Usually it's all covered in projects and bits and pieces and instruments, and for you it has to be in its own place. It's really nice.
Thank you. Right now I consider it actually messy. Usually it's a bit more straight. But to be honest, I can't start work if things are not cleaned up. I mean, I just I feel filthy.
I've been cleaning my workshop for the past 4 weeks because I finally felt that I can't move forward without a clean workshop, and it looks like I can't even compare how much messier it looks right now after 4 weeks of cleaning compared to your small workshop.
Hey, but you have a lot of stuff. I mean, when I look behind you, you have a lot of things going on, and
yeah. On the top shelf,
I try to keep it.
On the top shelf, I usually have some orders that are waiting sending. Like the orange thing over there is a paper making mold.
Yeah.
I like this one.
I really like the watermark.
Yeah, it's a lemon. Yeah, that was one of the things that I really liked about 3D printing paper making molds, that you can make almost any watermarks with quite easily compared to traditional paper making molds. So yeah, I really love.
Yeah, I really can.
I really love this process. So once again, it shows that you can do bookbinding in a quite small space, and you do not really need a large studio to make some books. Really, what you need to have is at least one table, and then you can already begin making books.
Yeah, I think so too. It's really the big investment in tools comes really with larger expectations about what you want to do, but it's not really necessary in the beginning.
Yeah. We had one of our first guests was a Brazilian Dutch binder and book restorer, Eliana Gomez from Haarlem, from Netherlands, and she has a very small studio. It's like, I think it's 6 square meters or something like that, or even less. And she has a board shear there. She had a lot of storage. She has a workbench, and I just loved how impressively well she used all this small space. Not only space, not only the surface, not only the 6 square meters, but all the space of the small workshop.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I guess that's mostly it. Thanks a lot for the tour. Thanks a lot for showing the your work, your past and future work, your workshop. It was an amazing to talk to you and to see all these things.
And it was really nice to meet you. Your enthusiasm is very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you as well. And I just really want to say that I really admire your platform, and I don't know how you got this idea to really popularize bookbinding to a wide audience, and I really don't think anyone else is doing it the way you guys are doing it right now. So I really think everybody owes you a favor. I'm sure a lot of new eyes look at bookbinding in a completely different way because of your work. So thank you from my end as well.
Thank you. So many thanks to all the members of our community, and many thanks to our patrons on Patreon. The money coming from our patrons on Patreon now cover our expenses on editing these podcasts. So it's really important for us that you support us in this way. If you'd like to become a member of our Patreon community, just use the link below. Pledges start with only $1 or €1 per month, and every pledge is very important to us. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or to our podcasts on other platforms like iTunes, or you can follow our newsletter on iBookBinding.com. Our next guest is my fellow student from American Academy of Bookbinding, Brenda Gallagher. She's a graphic designer and a bookbinder and a bookbinder teacher from Boulder, Colorado. Well, thanks again. If you have any ideas or any questions to our next guest, or any ideas whom we'd better invite next time, just leave a comment below, and see you next time. Thanks again. Thanks to Pavel. Thanks to Stopan, Kalin. Yeah. And yeah, good luck with your work. I hope to see a lot of new books from you in the years to come.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And then send greetings to your father, because his work is quite impressive.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's it. Cut.
Done.